Wow, I finished Words of Radiance. First thing I want to say is this book made me a Sanderson fan. Now, he's not my favorite author, but I definitely want to read more work by him now. Second, I was the most enthralled with this story, specifically by the character arcs and how they tied into the plot with each other. But I'm not entirely sold on his Cosmere world. I think he does a great job creating it. It's just not immersive or exciting for me personally. So let's go ahead and get into about what I loved about how this story ended and how I feel about this book overall. Shallan is my favorite character in this series, hands down, but specifically this book. Adolin made me adore him more in this book. Kaladin had the most interesting and strongest arc. I'm really happy that a lot of things were answered in this book, specifically that we got to find Irathiri, the ancient mysterious is it real city, and also that we saw Dalinar's visions brought to reality by the Parshendi. That was really cool. So with Shallan, I really loved going on this journey with her and watching her learn to stand like on her own 2 feet and discover who she is without anyone else around her influencing her or telling her what to do. And if I think about like her flashback scenes, she was also essentially doing that herself already. However, my biggest pet peeve about her arc, and I feel like this is kind of what happened to Kaladin in the first book, and I get that there are more books, so like it's not ended, but for some reason the way that this was handled, it just feels like it broke her arc for me. I don't know. When she finally at the very end remembers what happened to her mother and how she was involved in it, and she was literally using Pattern because he is her sword, it just felt really rushed over, and I wish that this moment had actually been saved for the next book so we could spend more time with it. And I'm sure it's gonna come up, I just wish it wasn't even revealed. Also, it sounds like she chose to give it Veil. Again, that also felt very rushed, so we still don't actually know what her full decision is on that. So it's hard because I feel like this whole book is really about her finding herself, standing on her own 2 feet, finding her true strength and doing what she wants for once and believing that she's strong and brave enough, and then the ending was just kind of rushed and flatlined for me. Again, I just wish it was saved for the next book. Adolin is adorable, and as you all said, he's a good boy. I see that now. I love him. This book definitely gives us a different, more deeper side of him. I feel like in the first book, he was much more brooding and stoic and really wanted to fit in with everyone. And he finally allows himself to be himself in this book. And I feel like he really grew up in this book also, which is a little contradictory to the fact that every time him and Kaladin argued, it felt like they were two young boys, but again, we love it, adorable. But for the most part, he saw how great Kaladin was and really had so much gratitude for what he did to save his father at the end of the first book. And that admiration grew more and more over time, even though they bickered. And I feel like that probably came from Adolin just being like, what are you? Like, how did you fight off Seth? Like, tell me your secrets. Now he knows. And I know we have a bit of like a love triangle going on here between Adolin, Shallan, and Kaladin. And as much as I feel like Shallan and Kaladin are like the perfect book couple, I feel like in reality, Adolin is the better choice. He's the healthier choice. No offense, Kaladin. So I hope they're endgame, but we'll see. This moment also kind of felt rushed, and I feel like it came out of nowhere, but I'm still happy that it happened. Adolin killed Sadeas? Like, what? It like happened in the middle of them all exploring, which I'll get to about the plot, but like, I loved the moment. I was like, literally like that the whole time I was reading. I was like, what is happening? I was also like, yes, finally, but also like, Sanderson, you just did that? Insane. Probably the most insane part of the book, and an insane character moment overall too. And then Sanderson just had Adolin saunter off as if nothing happened. I mean, there's obviously gonna be repercussions for that, but wow. What a bold move to do at the end of the book. So this is the arc that I wanted for Kaladin in the first book. This is the arc. It's crazy to me that it had to happen over the span of 2,000 pages, but it did. Him losing Syl because he couldn't find the words, and also because he was choosing to like allow these selfish motives to come into place, was really interesting, and I felt like his arc was very motivated and it was very grounded and it flowed smoothly and it wasn't forced. And then him realizing that Tien is Elhokar and Elhokar Elhokar's Tien was so heartbreaking and sad, and he realized how much he is also Dalinar. And I always talk about how like Sanderson loves to do these mirrors with each other. We finally see that mirror of these characters, and that was what clicked for Kaladin, especially when Elhokar came to him and he's like, I wanna be a hero, I wanna be brave, I wanna be a good guy, teach me, how do I do that? And that's when it really clicked for Kaladin. And I love that once he realized that this was the path he had to choose, this was how he found the words, he didn't care if it meant death because he knew it was the right thing to do. I loved it. It was such a beautiful arc. And I really feel like each part of this book had its own intense plot. So you know how I think there's 5 parts in this book? Each one had a mini plot, and each one like rose, like the climax rose, and then it was a beautiful payoff, except for the last part of part 5. The pacing definitely picked up in this book, so I can definitely see why this is a favorite for a lot of the readers in this series. I mean, it made me a Sanderson fan. And wow, the explanation of why when Kaladin picked up the shard blade in the arena when Adolin was doing the duel and he heard screams, and then the other guy...
There was another guy, because Renarin heard screams too, but there was another guy on the field who also heard them and was freaking out. So he's probably a Radiant. But
the fact that the 10 heartbeats are essentially like a way of bringing the Spren back to life just so they can use them and their soul is in the blade is really creepy and upsetting. I think it's really cool that Sanderson did the thing that when you touch a shard blade and if you are a Radiant, you can hear the souls because you are connected to those Spren. And it makes it even more poetic that Kaladin never wanted anything to do with shards. It's almost like he knew that this was his path without, realizing. So again, it's just poetic. And again, still being like, please don't ever touch one. I don't know if she didn't remember yet or he wasn't ready yet for her to explain that these Spren are, kind of killed and it's their souls that are still somewhat alive, allowing them to have these power. Truly, my biggest qualm with the ending of this book, specifically in this like city that we were so excited to find, it all felt very rushed. And again, I feel like a lot of moments could have been saved for the next book. I knew Dalinar sent out the span reads to everyone in the city, and we sort of had that flashback with Lopen, which we'll get to him. And then all of a sudden people were just flowing in and they were there. And it just felt odd, especially for how much time Sanderson likes to spend on things. I think that there could have been like a bigger hook that we could have left people off on. I don't know his brain. I don't know why he as the writer did that. I would love to ask him because I don't understand. I would have loved to rather be left off on a cliffhanger. He does leave us off on a cliffhanger, which I will get to. But you know what I mean? I wish that it didn't show all the stuff happening in the city sort of like fast-paced and rushed. And I actually do wish Szeth had died. It kind of bothers me that he's still alive. I don't know, it felt like really rewarding that Kaladin had defeated him and then he got like brought back. And I don't understand the rules of Sanderson because he died on screen. Jasnah didn't. And I will get to that in a moment. So I don't understand the death rules, okay? I guess there really is none and it's Sanderson's world and we're just living in it. Okay, so I knew it. I knew Jasnah was alive. I needed that epilogue. I needed it so bad. I called it, and I feel really good that I never gave up hope. This was a really fun journey that Sanderson took me on. I know there's been rumors about turning this series or Mistborn into a show or a movie, and I would actually really love the Stormlight Archives to be turned into a movie series. I think it would do really good, especially if they gave it great care like they did with the Dune series. I feel like they hired a great creative team. I love the cast. It's shot beautifully. The script is really well done. So I feel like if they had a good team that was able to adapt this, and again, it's an adaptation, so it might not be spot on, but I feel like they could still really create this world and make it come alive in a beautiful way. If you would like to see more of an extended reaction to the last part of this book, you can go ahead and head over to the Patreon. Thank you so much for watching this and going on this journey with me. I'll see you in the next video.